All right, well, hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar, Creating the Workforce of Tomorrow, Partnering with Workforce Programs to Bridge the Opportunity Gap. Today, our webinar is sponsored generously by Burlington English, and we have Robert Breitbart with us today, who's going to share a few words with us. Robert.
Well, thank you so much, James, and thank you to everybody joining in today. Extra excited to be with you. This is one of my favorite topics out there. So really looking forward to hearing Dorothy's presentation on really helping put the W in WIOA and having all the WIOA partners really join together. I'm serious, Dorothy, I'm taking notes. So I'm really looking forward to this. And on behalf of all of us at Burlington English, we're so thrilled to have partnered now with COABE from the very beginning of these webinars for so many years. And we're so thrilled that you all out there doing the heavy lifting get to be extra lifted up by information such as what Dorothy's going to share with you today. And just know, as you're thinking through what Dorothy will be sharing, and once again, I love that phrase, putting the W in WIOA, just know in Burlington English, you know, we have a mantra. We want every learner who walks through the door, particularly our ESL learners, we want every one of them to be aware of career opportunities and the fact that the program that they're in is much more than just to learn English, but it's a place where they can really be on their pathway to a family sustaining wage. And so career exploration and career furthering one's career and even starting it here in a new country starts at the very beginning with our Burlington core. And as our learners, whether they are getting their first job or a job in the future, we start with getting that job and the soft skills, and particularly the listening comprehension, so critical in a job interview process, as well as being a great participant in the workforce. Listening comprehension, that's something that we really feel we really excel in. And as our learners start exploring through careers, we have a robust offerings for resources for teachers to help students explore all the 16 Department of Labor career clusters, and then start narrowing down that particular career that's right for them. So whether they're entering into an IET or IELCE or any type of further, further education and training beyond ESL, they've got a great jump start on knowing the career-specific dialogues, the career-specific vocabulary, and what the career is all about. And again, as you can see on the screen, really day in the life of the career. So if you can't bring your your students to a job site for career shadowing, why not virtually bring the job site to the workplace, to the learners, and again, give them real, authentic, career specific, once again, dialogue and vocabulary, so that they're ready to enter into, as I like to say, I don't want my students to enter into anything cold, and that's particularly whether that's job training or the workplace in general. And as you see on the screen, all of it comes together in a digital portfolio. So all of your students' work as they're moving through your program is archived, not just for you, but obviously for them, to really help take their first steps and their future steps in your programs and then into a career. So as I say, whether it's the Burlington Core or our virtual career counselor, our career exploration and soft skills, and then our English for specific careers, that once again, really dovetails into having a really ready to, hit the ground running participant in the workforce. We've got you covered. I've got scores and scores of colleagues who'd like to help you get all of this started. So please reach out to us at burlingtonenglish.com. And I will now turn it over to our friends at COABE, and I'm looking forward to a fantastic webinar. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, everybody.
Robert, thank you so much. And we're grateful for Burlington English's partnership, friendship, and everything you do in the field of adult education. We're really grateful. We wouldn't be able to put on these webinars and offer them to our members if it wasn't for your partnership. So thank you very much. All right, so today our presenter is Dorothy Grill. She is currently the Workforce Initiative Coordinator at Agency for Community Empowerment of NEPA. And please, if you could say hello to her in the chat box, let us know where you're calling in from today. If you have any questions during or after her presentation, feel free to submit those in the Q&A box. And with that, I will turn it over to Dorothy. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're calling in from. I was just watching during Robert's presentation all the different locations that everyone is located at. So to give you a little bit of background of why I feel like I'm skilled to talk to this area, I've spent the last about 8 years of my career in a variety of different fields, all kind of tied together, and where I kind of came up with putting this presentation together. So I have taught at college. I have done tutoring support at colleges. I have been in an adult ed program locally as the test administrator, GED instructor, and ESL instructor, plus tutoring for those students. I also have spent about the last 5.5 years of my career in workforce development. So today's presentation is all about how you can partner as adult ed agencies, as agencies that offer the literacy support to your clients with localized workforce programs and different things like that to, bridge really that opportunity gap that it seems to be that adult learners tend to face. And we're going to get right into it. Okay, so the whole reason behind this is we owe a lot, if you have any background training in it at all, actually kind of pushes for partnerships to be formed between the grants that have the literacy funding and the localized workforce. So they really want a comprehensive set of skills given to these learners so that they're ready to go out and take on their futures after or during completion of the programs, depending on what kind of pathway they're on. So the WIOA law actually stands for the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which was actually signed into law on January 22nd, 2004. So really the whole idea behind WIOA is that it helps job seekers access employment, education, training, and support services to be successful in the labor market and to match employers with skilled workers that they need to complete, that they need so they can compete in a global economy. So with this whole idea, everyone on this call, I don't have to preach to the choir. You've all dealt with this. You've had students probably in your programs that had to call out childcare, transportation, caring for a sick parent, and the list goes on. And it's no different for the workforce and meeting those needs so they're able to get into work and be successful at obtaining and maintaining a job. So the real goal behind these partnerships is really to strengthen and improve the nation's public workforce system and help get Americans, especially the youth, those with significant barriers, which we'll talk about in a minute, to employment, into those high quality, life sustaining jobs that they really need and careers. So they're not working that dead end job that they hate. They're doing something they're passionate about. Before everyone came on live, we were actually talking about this. And this is something I personally believe in. I preach to all of our job seekers is to find a career that you are going to love. It doesn't matter if it's in healthcare, if it's in manufacturing, if you want to go cook for a living, if that's your passion. Because you spend so much time at work that you want that job to be your passion. And really what we want to do as workforce professionals, same thing that you want for your job, for your students as well, is get them in those high quality jobs so that they could go realize their goals of owning a house, sending their child to college, being able to do what they need to do, maybe start up their own business, whatever their goals may be. And in the same vein, it also helps the employers hire and retain skilled workers so that they're not constantly stopping what they're doing to do training or trying to upskill while they're at the job. So the barriers that we're talking about from our standpoint are some of these. So your displaced homemakers, maybe mom, dad was at home taking care of the kids and they're no longer needed for that. So now they're looking to get back into the workforce. Your individuals who are coming from a low income or low socioeconomic background. So those job seekers that right now might be in the minimum wage jobs that are just struggling to provide the basics for their family, shelter, food, clothing, things that children might need for school. So getting them in a higher paying work environment where they're actually getting a little bit ahead in what they need and what they want in their lives. Working with individuals with disabilities. So this could be something like a physical handicap. It also could be something like mental health concerns. It could also be a disability that maybe they need some help processing the information and figuring out where they fit into the puzzle. Working with ex-offenders, I'm going right from the website that's referenced below. I know most programs refer to these individuals as returning citizens. So working with those individuals that have been in jail or have a record. And sometimes there's ways to get those expunged if you work with the nonprofits and the other workforce programs that know of those services. So it's all about making the partnerships that are going to make your jobs a lot easier and not put so much of the burden of career support on you as the adult education programs. Working with individuals that are homeless, working with youth that were in foster care or that are aging out of foster care, working, like Robert said, with those individuals that are English language learners. Like I shared at my introduction, I have experience working with beginner ESL students, so I know the struggles that come along with trying to find a workplace in a culture where you don't always comprehend what is being said to you. And then working with individuals who are coming from low literacy levels. There's additional categories that are referenced at that website that's on the bottom for you. And then the cool thing about it is it's actually a PDF file that you can print and have the definitions so that when you're talking to workforce staff, whether it's through the American Job Centers that are located across the country, your workforce boards, anything like that, we all use the same language. So when we're talking about someone being in these categories or serving populations in these categories, everyone then gets on the same page, which is extremely helpful with making partnerships. So the endpoint of the job market is, the scary thing is we're training individuals and working with individuals that are seeking job skills that, minus your transferable skills. So like communication, teamwork, things like that, that are always going to be around. Some of the actual in-demand skills have a shelf life for about 5 years. So we have a saying in workforce that goes something along this line of, we're training job seekers for jobs that don't even exist yet. And locally, I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania. So locally, I've seen this with our tech school that's right up the street from where our firm's located. Some of the terminology they've thrown out in the past 6 months of new programs that are opening based on workforce need, I've actually had to go kind of educate myself and my staff on. So we know when job seekers come in talking about those, and we're talking to employers and finding out the skills that they need, we understand and make that connection that they need to go to that school for that certificate of training to get the skill set and knowledge that they need. So it's proven that like 65% of all new jobs don't exist yet. And like I said, we're training a workforce for jobs that aren't even thought of yet in terms of existing. So as technology grows, as different things grow, as they ramp up with machines and warehouses and things like that, we need to be on the cutting edge always and have that mindset of, we need to train for stuff that might not even be an option right now, and kind of pathway into the field and build them up as workers and as individuals. So with career development, you have three pieces. You have the self-awareness from the client or student, the career exploration, and the career planning and management. As I tell our job seekers, anyone that walks in this office, yes, we can have a turnaround of about a month timeline. That doesn't mean in a month's timeline you stop working on your resume and you stop kind of thinking, what's the next step for me? I'm very passionate about what I do, and I really push with our job seekers to always be thinking about what's next for me. Is it a promotion at where I'm at? Am I looking to maybe be a team lead or a trainer at some point? Getting that first job is great and everything like that. And we celebrate all those successes with our clients. And it's very cool to see for clients that have worked with the local adult ed programs in the area and with us to kind of dual enroll with us, if you will, to get the adult ed services plus the job help, be successful and get the success rates that we've seen. So with the self-awareness, the first thing that you have to consider is, and this is a big pet peeve of mine, some people that are in career development feel that they need to box the learner in. You cannot do that. You're working with humans. Each of your clients or job seekers or students, however you refer to them by your program's metrics, are individuals at the end of the day. And I mean, think of it yourself. You wouldn't want to be boxed into something that you don't want to be doing. You chose this field for a reason. You want someone coming from a workforce perspective and saying, well, you should go into nursing now all of a sudden, or you should go into manufacturing because that's where the money is. So making sure that they have a buy-in or being able to have a voice in what they want to do. And there's a lot of different programs out there that, can showcase what, different things like Robert was referring to, virtual stuff to see what the job is like. Because sometimes they'll come into the firm thinking they want to do something. We'll expose them to what that job actually is, and then they kind of change their mind. And through exploration, we figure out what it is that they really want to be doing. A favorite example of mine is healthcare. We have a lot of people come in and say, I want to be a nurse. Well, we start talking about what that role actually looks like, the schooling that's involved with it, and then all of a sudden they're not interested. So we start doing digging during the career exploration phase, and we find out the reason they want to go into nursing is they want to help people. Well, there's 20,000 other careers out there that you still can feel like you're helping people. That's not nursing. So just, exposing them to the different careers, exposing them to non-traditional careers based on their gender, based on their background. We've taken students that have never thought, when they walked into our front doors in Scranton, Pennsylvania, that, 3 months later, 6 months later, they would be at this job doing it. They would walk in and tell us, I just need a job to be able to pay my rent, to be able to afford food for my child. Some of the basic needs on Maslow's hierarchy. And through, yes, we will get them employed quickly because we understand the stress and chaos that involves when you can't afford rent, when you can't afford things. But we also get them hooked up with other local providers that provide them some assistance while we're getting into the deeper part of it to get them into a career or a job that they love. And then that career planning and management. So as I tell our job seekers, and I know a lot of the other firms in the area adopted the same mindset, it's not a one shot and done deal. You always need to be thinking about what's kind of next. Where do you go next? And we have a policy in place where I work. We follow them for 6 months, but they're invited to come back anytime that they have questions or they want to look at what's next. So we give them kind of the rundown of what they have access to through our office, but we don't push them to do everything at once, especially if they're a dual enrolled student, meaning that they're with a adult education program in the area, plus our workforce program on top of that, because that is a lot to manage, taking away from the fact of anything else they might have to manage in their lives as well, in terms of kids, maybe supporting parents, things like that. So the whole idea of partnerships comes from this idea of really working together. So I love this graphic. It's actually up in our office because to me, it represents everything that you need for this partnership to work. So of course, we need first and foremost people to make it work. If we didn't have clients in our adult education programs and our ESL programs and workforce programs, we're not going to have jobs. So we need those adult learners or their adult clients to be willing to work with our staff to get what they need from us. We need the providers. So whether it's the adult education program down the street, the one that's in the location right upstairs from where we are, we make them aware of every program that's in existence so they can pick the right fit for them. The neat thing where I'm from, the two main providers in the area, the one focuses on schooling and college afterwards, while the other one's more of your general adult learner program, literacy program. So it's neat to have that split and be very blessed to have that split. So that way we can find them the right fit for what that client wants ultimately as their future. And then of course, having the employers on board. You're not going to get anywhere without having that connection with the employers. That's where the workforce programs comes in. I've helped our adult education programs in the area connect with employers that are looking to just talk to people about like different careers that they offer, things like that. I've brought them into, when I taught GED, I brought them into the works, like into the classroom to talk to clients about what is going on and things like that, and the new exciting careers they might have, or what might be the option once they get some of those basic skills. And then making sure that you have the funding, of course. So the nice thing about partnering with workforce programs is we have access to funding that maybe adult ed might not have or might not have the staff to be able to access. So for example, our agency right now has a digital literacy grant from our state department of labor and industry, where we're able to upskill job seekers who have never touched a computer before in their life, intro them to computers all the way up through Microsoft Office credentialing based on what the client needs. So we've worked extensively with getting this out to the adult ed programs, as well as, hey, we're here, we're ready to help your clients. And we started seeing some trickling down when they get that client that does not understand how to even what a computer is, how to turn it on, what they're doing with it. So that's a perfect example of partnering the funding that we were able to get because of our status within workforce with the adult ed centers locally, and bringing the employers along as well, because we're talking to employers in the area as well with upskilling the job seekers that they have, so that more entry level positions would be open for those looking to get in the field. And of course, you're going to get the government and public institution pull on this because they're going to have policies in place. All states have adult ed policies that need to be followed. All states have workforce policies and things like that, depending on where your funding source is coming from. If it's a nonprofit workforce program, if it's a state-run workforce program, they're going to have policies and procedures they need to follow as well. And then, of course, paying attention to the ecosystem drivers, or what's going on in the community. What fields are popular? You know, for us up in northeastern Pennsylvania, it's manufacturing and healthcare. For someone down in Florida, that might not be the same fields that are high in demand careers. So paying attention to what are actually your high in demand careers, which mean basically there's going to be jobs in the next 5 to 7 years in those fields for individuals to go into and advance into. So how can we do this? So first and foremost, reach out and educate yourself to who your local players are in the workforce from. I've never met a workforce firm that was not willing to work with adult ed programs in the area. If they don't, they're doing something wrong, and you probably don't want to associate with them anyways, to be honest. But in all honesty, I know the big push is the American Job Centers or the career links, depending on how they're referred to where you're from. And they're great one-stop shops, but also pay attention to the nonprofits that might be working with specific groups in the area. Like I know for our area, we work generally with a little bit of a higher income bracket than our local workforce American Job Center does. But we also have a great counterpart that is fantastic with the firm they've built out for English as secondary language learners. So we actually, if we get anybody in here that is an ESL student or identifies that they're still kind of in that path of learning the English language, we immediately co-enroll them with that other nonprofit in the area so that they could get them that support as well. Because they do a fantastic job, especially if they have younger kids in school, with helping them with the communication with the school, getting them employers that are a little bit more open to training maybe in their language, things like that. So they've built out a really nice program that, again, my philosophy is don't replicate the services that are being offered, work with them. So, partnering with businesses in your community. Amazon is a great example of a national company that is willing to come in and talk to anyone at any time. Reach out to the recruiters there. A lot of, especially now with what's been going on with COVID and the hurt that this has placed on companies with people either being not able to work or being afraid to go back to work. More than ever, HR recruiters are willing to go anywhere they need to talk to a group of people that might result in job leads for those individuals. Work with your local workforce firms, because we already have partnerships with businesses in place where we can get a client employed fairly quickly based on that. If it's something that they're looking for a job in a field that they're not exactly 100% trained in, but they have some of the major training, and maybe it's a computer program or a specialty piece of technology, reach out to those American Job Centers, because they have funding in place that they can work with businesses to say, hey, if you take this client on, we'll give you a part of their salary because we know you're gonna have to pull someone to train them. Find out about the opportunities that exist. For everywhere, it's going to be a little bit different, but get involved with your chambers of commerce, different things like that. Find out what's going on. Pay attention to your local state organizations, to who might be willing to really partner and work with the adult ed programs in terms of companies and different things like that. And then when I first got into GED teaching and they first put me into workforce development as part of it, I stressed out that I was going to have to completely 360 my curriculum. And I started stressing, how are my clients going to pass the GED test? How am I going to give that English as a second language support to the students that need that? And they might be with me for a little bit longer than the orientation for that. And honestly, a lot of this can be built into already existing curriculum that you have. This is the beautiful thing, workforce. A lot of it, like I said, can be built in, but don't be afraid to reach out to those community partners and say, hey, I need help with this skill. So a perfect example of this is our one local program relies on computer work heavily right now due to COVID. And they had some learners that never have touched a computer in their life. So they reached out to us and we were able to partner with them to get those clients going on the computer. So that way, when they got the devices and got the internet at their houses, they were able to successfully participate in class. And we worked collaboratively with that local adult ed program to make sure that the students had the supports that they needed in terms of getting involved with the free internet and things like that. And it really took a big burden off of the staff, and they were able to serve clients that if we didn't have that partnership going, they might have had to turn away till things settled down with COVID. Um, and my big thing with workforce development with adult ed is the saying invite, integrate, identify, and train. So inviting those partners to your program, let them see what you're doing, let them talk to students, talk to staff to find out how can they best support you. Integrate with them. So bringing them in as a guest speaker, even if it is virtually, like we're doing today. Being able to integrate, because that way you're really getting an access to really quality speakers. Um, with our program, when we had to go virtual, when the first shutdown happened during the pandemic, everyone else kind of complained about it. I saw it as an opportunity to bring in speakers that we never had a chance to, based on location and based on things like that. And then finally, identifying those ways to train your clients or your students. So just some ideas on the other side of the screen, your local economic development boards, your chambers of commerce, if you have that, your workforce development boards, your American Job Centers or career links, the nonprofits during the workforce, but don't also forget about your school partnerships as well. So with that, they are able to tell you kind of what's coming up down the pipeline and what is coming up as far as, interesting points that you need to make. Finally, with building the potential partnerships, it's going to take time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but building career pathways that make employee needs in your area, employers' needs and the employees' needs. So building out things that make sense for your local community. Supporting post-secondary and training program success. So getting them involved with funding for school, whether it's through the workforce programs or the financial aid packages, whatever it takes to get them through those programs. Coordinating resources and sharing resources. We came onto the scene a year ago as a new workforce firm in the area, and everyone was telling me, oh, it's going to be extremely hard. Northeastern Pennsylvania, it's such a competitive field. And then suddenly a year later, we have all these great partnerships built. And I keep on getting asked every conference I go to, everything like that, what's your secret? And it's really coordinating those resources, sharing the clients, not duplicating services. And that's really set us apart as the workforce firm, that we're not interested in getting involved with housing. We want to work with the agencies up here that are doing the housing. So things like that. Overcoming barriers to support workforce success. So, the workforce firms have counselors that can sit down and give the client resources to and help them contact those resources and do warm handoffs that maybe, your firm, depending on the size, might not have. I know most firms do have student support built in, but you might have one person doing that role. So that's super hard to try and meet all the needs. So work with your community partners to build that out. Making referrals to community and workforce development partners so we can start to have those conversations while they're in the programs with you. Making partnerships with local businesses. Plus, a lot of times, from my experience with local businesses, they might actually be willing to support you with some in-kind donations, whether it is space in their location to do an ESL class, whether it might be equipment that you need, things like that. Federal funding, grant funding only goes so far. So the partnerships might lead to them supporting you in other ways with those in-kind donations as well. And then don't discount the internships or on-the-job trainings that can happen while they're involved with your program. So for the youth services under WeOwer, typically the American Job Centers have money to put the youth out in jobs so they can experience firsthand what those jobs are in a safe environment that they're getting a check from the American Job Centers. Doing different things like that, investigating those partnerships so that you are successful with it. So this all sounds cool, but what do you get as adult ed programs, adult ed staff? So what you get, and the biggest takeaway is you're providing your learners, your students, with an ability to be successful, not only in the classroom, but past that class. Once that class ends or once the program ends for them, you're giving them that pathway and being able to be a part of their story of being successful. The neat thing is working in the nonprofit field in the area and teaching in the area. I actually still have exposure to some of the students that I helped get their GED, and I'm seeing them in professional roles. And they're quick to remind me I'm here because of what you did in the GED classroom with me. And just exposing them to that field and making sure they were connected with the right resources. You're also going to get a very dedicated, usually, and heavy hitting staff that knows all the different partnerships and can make those introductions to you. So, for example, when I worked at the American Job Center, I came into workforce development not knowing anything at all. Through the American Job Center, I was able to connect with our Chamber of Commerce, who was able to connect me with businesses and stuff that were looking to come into the classroom and talk to the students, that were looking to maybe become a work site for our workforce program. So different things like that. So it's just really getting out there and seeing what's already in existence in your community instead of reinventing the wheel and spending, the time with that. These are just some toolkits that I actually use in my work here as a coordinator that my staff member uses that does the career assessment and the career management for our clients. Because like I said, we're about a year out and we're a very small program. We're just starting up, but we really buy into using stuff that's already there. So that way, we're not reinventing the wheel either. Like, for example, our career assessments we do are the ONET. Everyone has access to that. That is just a wealth of information. Sometimes the learners actually get a little bit overwhelmed and we have to kind of step into staff members and pull them back into their safe space because they just get a little bit too overwhelmed of, oh, I never thought I could do these many careers based on what I'm interested in. So even partnering with the workforce folks to do a survey, whether it's ONET or whether it's a survey that they use or a different program that they use. There's also usually workshops that are free for learners and staff to attend. So things like interview prep, resume writing. This is all different things that you partnering with that workforce program, making those connections really help support that learner in full encompassing model. So for example, our workforce program, we actually, one of our 32 points we screen them for when they come in the door is what educational level they are at. And if they're less than a high school diploma, we talk to them about joining one of our local adult ed programs so they can get that credential, which in the end helps us place them better because we can get them higher paying jobs, but also it's getting them something that they felt might be off the table. Two of my most recent success stories that I'm just super thrilled with both of them, and were with clients who came to us without having the high school diploma. We're able to get them partnered with a local adult ed program, get that high school diploma fairly quickly, and get them right into the workforce. And honestly, probably get them about $3 to $4 higher wages than what we would have been able to get them without that piece of paper behind them. And just to see their success stories and their faces when they came back in the office, handing our staff their first pay stub showing, they were making $13, $14, $15 an hour was phenomenal. And it was neat to see, what happened because of that partnership with us and the adult ed program. And, with the partnerships, it's crucial to realize too, you don't have to give up any of your policies that you might already have in place in terms of managed classrooms or anything like that. You just really want to, give them basically access to what is available and make them aware of that. So this is my contact information. I know the slides are getting sent out. If I can help you in any way, even spitball some ideas or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. I know we have some Q&As to go through as well, but if I can be of support to anyone on this call or anyone watching this recording, please feel free to reach out to me because like I said, workforce is my passion. I've been experienced in being an adult ed program, so I kind of can walk both lines and know exactly where that partnership needs to happen. Okay, and that's it for my slide deck. So remember, if anyone has questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. I do see that I have 2 questions here. I can definitely share the links with the slideshow. You are going to get copies as well, so you have them. And with the ESL student question, that honestly depends on what program you're looking at. Like if it was for our program in our agency, we do not require them to be American citizens. I believe most career links don't as well, but you would just have to check what the program guidelines are in your area. But I do know that basically a lot of programs basically do not have that stipulation on them. But I also would encourage you to reach out, especially if you're working with the ESL population, to look at if there's any nonprofits that are specifically doing workforce programs for those ESL students, because they know exactly what barriers they're facing. In terms of recommended first step in the self-awareness and career exploration for students, I would say, getting them on something like ONET or another interest survey would be a great first step to kind of even see what might be available for that student based on it. Because with the ONET, for example, if you're not familiar with that, they actually ask in a way that they're asking them what they're interested in. So it's things like, are you interested in building? Are you interested in, taking care of other people? It's very generic so that they can push the different different points to it. They can push definitely that thing. And the neat thing with the ONET and why I really like them, we use it in our program, is the cool thing about it is they actually, when they get the results, they get it in levels. So what the levels, they start from an individual that has a high school diploma all the way up to like a master's degree. So, it's great for individuals to use to see kind of not only where can they go right now, but what can they kind of do down the road with some basic schooling behind them and things like that. And yes, definitely I can put my email in the chat. I'm gonna do that right now so that you guys have access to it. And again, like I said before, the offer is there if anyone wants to reach out to me. Feel free to. So that way, we could talk a little bit more specifics about specific programs or specific spots in the thing like that. And for you, we could definitely spend another hour, but what I would say is definitely ONET, definitely reaching out to your American Job Centers because they are skilled at working with youth, but also, as Robert talked about, getting them that either virtual or in person where they can actually kind of see and experience that job. I think that's one of the crucial things for you in terms of, having them specifically see what, is out there, what they actually would be expected to do in the jobs. Because I think, especially for today's youth, it's so important for them to see, kind of what the job expectations are and what they would be expected to do in terms of actually working. And if you want to connect with me, either through my email, LinkedIn, whatever's easier for you, with the youth question or anyone on this call that's interested in youth, I can definitely share some resources I've used in my classroom. Because the neat thing with that is I actually was teaching GED under youth contract when I had the GED and workforce component combined. So I have a lot of resources already done that I would be more than happy to share with you. And again, I just want to thank COABE, Burlington English, for sponsoring this webinar and having me come on today. Because like I said, I'm very passionate about workforce and really, with the workforce piece in the last 5.5 years, I've really become a big push on partnerships and really working with the learner and definitely, you know, going from there. And then the last question, if we have any pilot programs available, we're actually doing a pilot program. I can definitely, if you connect with me via email, share that with you with the digital literacy, with state funding. We also have a really cool program from our agency that supports our workforce, honestly, where we are doing a 3-part transportation program. And this is a perfect example of connecting with your workforce programs in the area, where we can either do car repairs for an individual if they need it. We can provide a rideshare service to get them to and from work and medical appointments. And then we're starting to identify funding sources to actually be able to give a down payment towards a car if they have a license, but they don't have a car to support them as well. So that would be another great example of a pilot program that we built out. It started with just the vehicle repairs, but then working with clients through the vehicle repairs, we actually built out the other 2 parts of it. So we're in the process of piloting the transportation initiative that we take people to and from medical and work-related appointments. We just started that about 2 weeks ago. And like I said, we're already, as a nonprofit, digging into funding for to provide the car buying aspect of it, which they'll get some education on car maintenance, financing, things like that. And we're going to make sure they get hooked up with dealerships that give them a good rate and don't take them, to the bank with fees or anything like that. So we're actually building out the partnerships as we speak for that with other nonprofits that do a really great job with the financial piece, with car maintenance piece. So we don't have to replicate that. We can just know to count on them for support once we're ready to roll with this program and we get clients in there. As part of the program, they're going to go through these 2 classes. We're going to record them, do them virtually, and they'll have a quiz at the end to submit so they prove that they actually sat through and, paid attention to the information that was presented to them. Any other questions? Or anything like that? And again, I just want to thank everyone for taking their time out of their Friday. I know how hard it is from being a former adult education staff to, take almost a full hour to pay attention and everything like that. So again, like I said, thank you so much. And I hope you got a lot out of this, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. We appreciate it. That was a great presentation. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and thank you again to Burlington English and Robert for sponsoring today's webinar. We're grateful for their support. If everybody could just take a minute and fill out our quick poll before you log off for the weekend, that would be great. And again, thank you, Dorothy, for a great presentation. Thanks, everybody. I hope everybody has a great day and a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.